Hey everybody, welcome to Shooting the with Yankee. As always, I'm Yankee, so let's start shooting. Today's topic is about gun quality. Do they make them like they used to? Are guns as good now as they ever were? Are they better than they used to be? Or, like I said, do they not make them like they used to? I want to hear your all's opinions on this. Now, before we get started, I'll weigh in here and I'm going to say I think guns are way better these days than they used to be. Now, I know there are a lot of features people used to prefer that they don't do now because they've moved to more modern manufacturing techniques, etc., like pinned barrels. Some people prefer pinned barrels. I like pinned barrels. And there are some features that they've kind of abandoned, like recessed cylinders in revolvers. Most of them don't do that anymore. But overall quality, gun for gun, coming off a line, guns today are so much better than they used to be. If you remember back in the day, guns produced even back in the 60s and 70s, when you took them home, you had to break those guns in. And there was a reason for that, because most of the guns were hand fit. And if they weren't hand fit, production line guns, those had to be worn in because the tolerances were erred on the side of being too big than too small. You know what I mean? Pieces being too big, tolerances being actually too small. So you had to wear things in. Things had to get worn in before they'd function properly. So you had to break a gun in because they couldn't produce them in any mass numbers in the quality they can today. Used to be, like I said, if you wanted a gun that was right out of the box, you could get one, but that had to be hand fitted, custom done. And that was expensive. You couldn't get that on your everyday production gun. Nowadays, with CNC machining and computer tolerance levels, all the things they do now, every gun that rolls off the line can be nearly perfect. They can be pretty much what a hand fit gun was 30 years ago, every one of them. It used to be important that, your slide and your frame stayed together. Back in the day, they made one slide, one frame, they fit those together, sent them out. If they didn't fit them, you fit them by breaking them in. And then those two pieces kind of were married together. Nowadays, with CNC machining, they can make parts that have tolerances so small that pretty much any slide can go on any frame. It's just that they're so well made now. Now, like I said, they did give up on a lot of the more expensive features on some guns. And some of them just aren't really needed anymore. Used to be they couldn't make a gun that had the threading precise enough to tighten it down and be able to tighten down enough to be straight. It would be off every time. Now they can do that. So they use the compression fit barrels, which means they're twisted on and then tightened to a certain level. And then they end up straight because they work all that out ahead of time. But they're made better than they ever were. Not only do we have more variety than we've ever had, guns rolling right off the conveyor belt or whatever they come off the line are of almost hand done quality now, every single gun, if you're paying for a halfway decent gun. So I think they're better these days than they used to be. Let's see if anybody agrees with me or disagrees with me over here. Jim Leggins Jr. says materials, metallurgy, finishes, and tolerances are what? He didn't finish that. He finished it up in a second comment here. Much better now than in the past. He broke that into two chats for some reason there. I don't think he ran out of numbers or letters there. He just broke it up for some reason. And I agree with him. Metallurgy is a lot better these days. We can make MEM pieces now that are almost as good as forged pieces. They're as good probably as forged pieces were 20 years ago. But just it's amazing what they can do nowadays. Mark Lack says, overall, I think the quality is better than before. I think you're right. I agree with you. Mr. Furley says, better. Remington is a reminder not to cut corners. Yes, Remington had some problems. I wonder how many people actually remember the problems Remington had and how many people have forgotten about that. It was Remington doesn't even exist anymore, do they? So, they had some problems. John M. Mandrick chimed in and said, I think they are overall better, more variety, and also cost effective. Yes, for way less money, you get guns that are just about as good as the higher end custom fit guns back in the day, at probably 99% of what those were. And you don't have to pay somebody 25 hours of gunsmithing to put it together. A machine does it in minutes. So it's just, so amazing now what they can do. CNC machining really has, changed the business. You just have to look at Colt as a perfect example. Other 1911 makers were coming on strong, making guns, Kimber, etc., making some wonderful 1911s back in the 90s, 2000s. Colt was really falling behind. Their guns were poorly fit and they shook like can of pennies when you shook them. They rattled like can of pennies. So they were really falling behind. And what they were doing is they were working on old style machines, etc. They updated the modern CNC machines and boom, overnight, their guns were back to top quality. So it really does make a difference. And you can look just at Colt and see that difference. Dale Rickety also weighed in here and said, guns are better made units now than in the past. Yes. A lot of people don't understand that when they mass produced guns back in the day and they had to work like right off the assembly line for like wartime or something, they were rattle traps. They were not fit well at all. They were very loose fit. They were, 1911s were clankety, clankety, clank because they couldn't make them tight enough to be good and still function. They would have to hand fit them or wear them in because they didn't have the ability to do the things they have the ability to do now, produce them the way they produce them now. So I think that they're much better now than they ever have been in the past. I think pretty much everybody recognizes that. You would think that people don't, because when you watch videos and you look at comment sections, so many people are like, they don't make them like they used to. And I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. They don't. They make them better. It's like people who like don't make cars like they used to. No, they don't. They make them better. They're faster. They're more comfortable. They do more things. They run better. People think that, cars never broke down back in the day. And if they did, you can fix them for 50 cents. It wasn't really true. I've had old cars. They broke down. My grandfather bought a car every year. And sometimes they break down, and they were easier to work on because they were simpler machines. But because they were simpler machines, they didn't do all that well. So they were reliable. They didn't have the power they have nowadays. You definitely didn't get the power out of four cylinders. But I'm getting off topic here and getting into cars. But like I said, I think they make them better than ever. They just somehow don't do a lot of the details that I would like to see. Some companies do, like Kimber with their revolvers. Others don't. Like, I would love to see Colt start going back to recessed cylinders. But otherwise, guns today are better than they ever have been. And it seems like most everybody agrees with me. How about you? Do you disagree? Do you think guns are not as good now as they used to be? Let me know in the comment section below. Or do you agree with me? Also, let me know in the comment section below. And if you want to weigh in on one of these topics live, come to our live chats. We have them every night at 6 p.m. Pacific time, except for Wednesdays when they're at 7 p.m. Hope to see you at a chat soon. Until then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again.